Would you have ever believed that your boy here would turn into the biggest defender of Big Ten football in the entire country? You probably never would have expected that plot twist. All of you out there who've heard me over the years take shots at Jim Harbaugh, take shots at Urban Meyer, take shots at all the Big Ten programs over the years as a dyed-in-the-wool SEC fan. You probably never would have anticipated on this program that your boy Clay Travis would turn into the biggest advocate in the entirety of the media in the country for Big Ten football to be played this fall. But I am just completely fired up about this. And I'm going to be beating this drum all week, probably for weeks. But the absurdity of it all has got me absolutely riled up. And so I want to just kind of start off here. I am a parent, okay? All of my kids are going to be back physically in school by Monday of next week. I'll have a kindergartner, I'll have a fourth grader, and I will have a seventh grader. They matter more to me than anything in the world. All three of them will be back physically attending school here in the Nashville area of Tennessee where I live. They will all be physically present. My kids are young. They're 12, 9, and 5. But if they were college age, I would want them to be in school at college because the data reflects that college kids are not in danger, relatively speaking, from the coronavirus. They are more likely to die of the seasonal flu. They're more likely to die driving to campus. They are more likely to be murdered. They are more likely to OD on drugs. They are more likely to have an overdose of alcohol. They are more likely to kill themselves. All of those are awful things. But all of them are extremely unlikely in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't mean that your kids or my kids are going to be safe in college no matter what. It certainly doesn't. And bad things can happen. But as a group, college kids are safe on campus, and so are kindergartners, which I have, all the way through grad school kids. If you are young, you are not in danger from the coronavirus. And that is why I completely empathize with all of the parents in the Big Ten who are raising a significant question about the decisions that were made in the Big Ten. In particular, Nebraska, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa. Hundreds of parents of college football players in this country are raising an important question. Why should my kids, along with all other scholarship athletes, not have the right to decide whether or not we play? It's the same question that Justin Fields, star quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes, is asking as well. That is a fair question. That is a legitimate question. Also, the same statement that Lisa McCaffrey, who is married to Ed McCaffrey, whose son Dylan plays at Michigan, whose son Christian McCaffrey is the highest paid running back of all time, she is arguing that the University of Michigan and also as another child at Nebraska, that both of those programs are doing a good job taking care of her kids, and she's asking why they shouldn't have the right to make a choice to play. Justin Fields put up a MoveOn.org petition asking everybody to sign who is interested in playing in the Big Ten this year. The petition reads as follows: "We, the football players of the Big Ten, together with the fans and supporters of college football, request that the Big Ten Conference immediately reinstate the 2020 football season. Allow Big Ten players and teams to make their own choice as to whether they wish to play or opt out for this fall season. Allow Big Ten players and teams who choose to opt out of playing a fall season to do so without penalty or repercussion. We want to play," he says. "We believe that safety protocols have been established and can be maintained to mitigate concerns of exposure to COVID-19. We believe we should have the right to make decisions about what is best for our health and our future. Don't let our hard work and sacrifice be in vain. Hashtag let us play. Hundreds of thousands of people have agreed with him and have signed that petition. I agree with him. In particular, I would raise this issue, which to me becomes glaring, readily apparent, and incredibly hypocritical. Big Ten campuses, many of them, are allowing kids to go back on campus and attend class. They're allowing kids to live in dormitories, and they are allowing kids to go to the cafeteria. They are also allowing their athletes to train for 20 hours this week all fall. And they are even allowing intramural sports on campus. Under which rational decision-making process can all of that be viable, and you are not actually allowing the football players or other athletes to make choices themselves? In particular, this is flagrantly hypocritical for the commissioner of the Big Ten, Kevin Warren. Kevin Warren has a son who is playing college football this year at Mississippi State. In fact, practice at Mississippi State and all other SEC schools begins today. In fact, the Southeastern Conference is releasing this afternoon all of their schedule on a week-by-week basis so that you can have the opportunity to sit back and figure out what games to potentially attend, because I'm hearing that not only are the SEC and the Big 12 in particular going to play, but there's a very good chance that they will have 25% crowd attendance at those games, so they will be having a quarter of their stadiums full. Earlier, before they made the decision to shut down, Kevin Warren, whose son plays for Mississippi State, said as follows: "We just believe collectively," this is what he said when they canceled the season, "we just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty at this point in time in our country to encourage our student athletes to participate in fall sports. We take this responsibility seriously. I'll continually do everything in my power to make sure we put our student athletes in a position to be empowered and elevated." To be in a position to be empowered and elevated. How are you empowering or elevating anyone in college athletics when you are not allowing kids who are 18 years or older to make choices in consultation with their families so that they can decide to play college football if they so desire? It's also crazy because as recently as August 5th, when the Big Ten released their schedule just over a week ago, Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big 12, said as follows: "I have a son who's a football student athlete in the SEC at Mississippi State. And so I've asked myself as a father, would I be comfortable for him to participate in the Big Ten based upon the testing policies, protocols, and procedures we have in place? And as of today, the answer is yes." That was on August 5th. What has taken place between August 5th and the decision on Tuesday of this past week, to cancel the college football season? Kevin Warren is happy with his son, who plays in the SEC, having an opportunity to make his own choice about whether to play or not. And look, as a father of three, I'm not disagreeing in any way with the fact, as all of you know out there, that a lot of times you have kids who do something different than you think they should, especially once they get to be 17, 18, especially once they're 18, and can theoretically make their own decisions because they're adults. My parents set me down and sometimes said things that I was doing or not doing that they disagreed with. You probably have sat down with your own parents or your own kids and had those conversations. So, we don't know what Kevin Warren is saying privately to his son, but isn't it ironic that the Big Ten commissioner's own son has an opportunity to decide whether or not to play college football, and that is a decision that is not permitted, that is not allowed for all of the Big Ten fall athletes to make? Kevin Warren made that decision for them, and so did the university presidents in the Big Ten. That is the very height of hypocrisy. Do as I say, not as I do in my own family. That is what the Big Ten commissioner is saying right now. There is zero doubt that this is an unprecedented situation in college athletics. But there is also zero doubt that college athletes who choose to play are in a safer environment surrounding their football program than they are off the campus surrounded by other students. In fact, if you look at what just happened at the University of Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley has his team training and all close to the football facility for weeks, and there isn't a single positive test that comes from the Oklahoma Sooner football program. He gives them the opportunity to go home. He lets them leave the football complex and go out into the wider world. And this weekend, 9 of them came back and were positive for the coronavirus. This is what will happen throughout the entirety of the fall. The closer these kids are kept to the football program, the safer they are, because they're going to be tested daily. They're going to have their temperatures checked daily. They will have access to the best possible medical care. The minute that they are no longer preparing for a season, they will no longer be held as closely to the football program, and the chances are their rates of infection and or positive tests will increase. Now, we have to avoid overreacting to college kids testing positive for the coronavirus. The vast majority of them will not even know that they have it. A small percentage of them will feel poorly. On a year-to-year basis, college kids are more likely to die of the seasonal flu than they are of the coronavirus. And we never shut down anything around college campuses associated with the seasonal flu. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't work to limit the overall infection rate. That doesn't mean that people shouldn't undertake smart, intelligent decisions, and that it probably doesn't make sense if you're a college kid to show up at a crowded bar or to show up at a crowded campus or off-campus party. And in fact, I think colleges are going to have to be really aggressive about policing parties in a way that traditionally they would not be, because that is where kids are most likely to get sick. That is where it's most likely to be spread. That is where the risk of infection comes from. But college football players and college athletes in general all deserve the right to make a choice in consultation with their families, just like is happening for the Big Ten commissioner's son. Decide whether or not you want to play whatever is in the best interest of your family. Don't allow the ridiculousness of partisan politics to overwhelm your decision-making. And trust me, I am fired up about how political playing college football has become and how political playing high school football has become. And I'm going to share with you some mind-blowing stats when we return in the next segment. It's a Monday edition of Outkick. I am your biggest advocate, Big Ten fans. It's an upside-down world when no one in the world of sports at all is advocating more for the return of college football in the Big Ten than me. Also, I'm in favor of the Pac-12 returning, but it doesn't seem like there's any hope in the Pac-12 because the athletes and the parents in the Pac-12 aren't even standing up and arguing against the cancellation of fall athletics. To their credit, the Big Ten is. I think Kevin Warren has completely mismanaged this, the commissioner of the Big Ten. What I would like is for every single Big Ten president to have to go public with what his or her vote was as it pertains to the cancellation of the college football season. I want to know how close it was to the season not being canceled. And I also want questions to have to be answered about why a decision has to be made right now. Why couldn't the Big Ten have pushed back the start of their college football season the exact same way the SEC and the Big 12 by and large have? The SEC right now isn't playing a game until September 26th. That gives the conference a tremendous amount of time to allow students to get back on campus, to see how outbreaks may go on campus, and to make a decision sometime probably around Labor Day about whether or not they're actually going to play the season. Why did the Big 12 have to make a decision right now? What in the world were they thinking? Why is it in any way rational to allow students on campus, to allow students to live in a dormitory, and to allow students to make the decision to play intramural sports, among other things? Everybody out there who is arguing about liability-related issues, frankly, you have no idea what you're talking about. I can put on my lawyer hat and tell you that whatever liabilities the universities have for college kids, and I don't think they will be very substantial, they are far more substantial for the average college student, given there are tens of thousands of those kids, than it is for college athletes in particular. In fact, the chances of infection occurring in a football game or a athletic event are incredibly low. There is no way that it is very likely to happen at all. So the college athletes who are on campus are far more likely to get infected going to class or going to the cafeteria or living in the dorms or just having a normal college lifestyle on campus than they are in the cloistered and protective environment of college athletics, as we just saw from Oklahoma when they loosened up regulations just a little bit. Infections increased substantially.